WCLN 1170 Radio and Cable Channel 16 are pleased to present We Should Know, hosted by JW Simmons, an upbeat, informative look at people, places, and issues facing our community. This education-based analysis of issues will remain positive and informative as we consider closely what we should know.
Welcome back. We Should Know is on the air. My name is JW Simmons, your host. It's my pleasure to be with you today, and as always, to bring you a very interesting topic and a subject that deals with your life on a daily basis, and also something that you need to know about and we need to learn more about. Again, the name of the show is We Should Know. Our guest today is Linwood Reynolds, Director of Public Works for Sampson County. Lynn, thank you for being with us.
I'm glad to be here.
Lynn, I was looking back, and it's been possibly 3 or 4 years, as I remember looking back. We had you on right after you stepped up to be the Director of Public Works in Sampson County. Back, I think your duty started in June 2017, I believe.
That's correct.
Yep. And so I look at it, and there was a comment the county manager made about you in that position, and I thought was interesting. And the county manager said that, talking about you, he said he once was told, when looking to hire someone for such an important position, you should look for the qualities you can't teach. And it struck me as those talents and those skills have been important for you. How critical is that? Because you've got a background, you got a degree in engineering.
Yes.
You spent close to 30 years as an engineer with Department of Transportation, North Carolina Department of Transportation. What are the skills? Just talk to us a bit about your journey from basically way back in 17 when we talked to you and now. There's been a lot going on.
In the job I've got, it's looking at the big picture and remembering that it's about the department and the people in the public and its service to the public, and having respect for your coworkers and just listening to the public and listening to your coworkers. Good employees will make a department basically run itself. I mean, and I've got really good ones. There's 21 of us. We look after 26 buildings, and we look after about 630 miles of water lines. And we've added some since I've been there, and we've got a big program now to add a bunch more infrastructure, water tanks, wells, water lines. Mm-hmm. But it's all about listening to people, being considerate, and we've got good, hardworking people in Sampson County, and they know how to get the job done, and they're good at it. So.
Lee Kennedy was in that position prior to you, and at the time there was a lot going on, but the development of the water system in the county it was very new, should I say?
Right.
Since you've taken over, it's jumped radically as far as numbers of people to numbers of miles of pipe. Just kind of give us a little bit of history on what has been there and that journey forward to where we are now in 2022.
Almost 30 years ago, the county commissioners had a vision, and they were advised by the engineer they had that the water system was not viable in Sampson County. The county commissioners thought it was, and they agreed to some loans, and they set up an enterprise. We're an enterprise. The water system does not take any county tax money to operate. The money we generate keeps the system up. Lee Kennedy did an absolute fantastic job identifying the proper roads to place the water on. Mm-hmm. And the goal was to use a target of 10 homes per mile to make it viable. Mm-hmm. And that's what was done. We've got 6,300 customers. We got 630 miles of water lines. When you do the math, we got to 10 per mile. We are paying off loans from 27 years ago. Wow. We almost got one paid off there. I think it was a 30-year loan. The second expansion they did was the big one. We owe quite a bit more on it. We got probably 20 years left on it, 17 to 20 years on it. We are generating enough revenue to pay the loans and pay the operating cost. And we have a little bit of money at the end of the year, usually $200,000 to $300,000 to put in a reserve fund for emergencies. And it takes a lot for that. For instance, one water blowout under a creek could easily be $50,000. So we have to have a reserve fund, and we do. The county's done a good job being conservative. But it's when I first got here, I rode every road in the county and counted the homes on the roads that did not have water, and that's when I realized how good of a job Lee County did.
And I think the origin even goes back to the 1980s when like you're talking about, and where we're going. Let's kind of open today with a kind of a bigger picture thing to kind of rest people's minds a little bit. We've seen a lot recently, just in the past few days, in fact, the past probably 72 hours, about drought situations in the middle part of the country and in California and Nevada and different places. Riverbeds drying up, Grand Canyon and such as that. It's just unbelievable. Is the location that we're in currently, as you look at it currently, related to water? Are we in good shape? Because we've got a lot of water coming out of the ground here in eastern North Carolina, particularly areas that have not only homes, businesses, and in those businesses is chickens, poultry, all kinds of farms that have huge amounts of water coming out. Do we have enough aquifers there to sustain that over time?
I'm not a geologist, but we do have a good geologist that we use. And east of I-95, the aquifers are in good shape. We use well water. We do not use surface water like some of our towns west of I-95 use. Mm-hmm. What you see out west is what we call surface water use, where they pump the water out of the rivers and the lakes. We pump ours out of the ground, so we got the aquifer that we pump from. We are in good shape. Our geologists, we design our wells, our engineers design our wells to last 50 years. That's the goal. The water table in the aquifer does fluctuate some, but we're in a good location where we're between the surface area water west of 95, and we're west of some problems they're having down toward the coast where salt water is infiltrating the aquifer down there. Mm-hmm. We're in the middle. We're in the sweet spot, so we're in good shape.
So it's good news on that part.
Yes.
When we look at where you're going now, kind of give us an idea vision-wise, because you've added a lot of customers.
Yes.
You've added a lot of pipe in the ground. Tell us about what you've done so far, and where do you see the pipe in the ground going? Do you still have demand for county water? What does that look like for the future? And let's just kind of consider 5 years in the past, where we are now, and 5 years in the future.
Well, 5 years ago, the county commissioners each year would allow me to add a short amount of mileage using the reserved money, and we were very conservative with that. We didn't want to use it up, and we would spend a couple of $100,000 to identify some areas that had a lot of homes, and we did. We probably added 12 to 15 miles since I've been here. Very expensive to do that. Now we've got grants that are available, and we are applying. We've got $17 million in grants available in hand now. We've applied for about 20 more million, 25 million more, something like that. We've got one that's pending for 13 million. I'm waiting on a letter to say yay or nay. and that would be a large system in the southern end of the county. On the internet, it shows we got that money, but I have not received the official letter saying that we got it. It was for $13.3 million. So we could easily add 40 miles of road right now if we get the grants we've applied for.
So given that as a hopeful reality that will happen, do you see the continued expansion and demand, should I say, for county water? And what is, I guess, a two-part question. The second part of that is, what's the sustainability of private wells in rural areas? And I realize a lot of what we're talking about today, you could apply to any rural area in North Carolina because they have some of the same kinds of demands. But as you just pointed out, we are in that sweet spot. And I think that says a lot to folks in the sense that we're nobody can predict the future, but it appears we're fairly safe.
We're in good shape. You've got another dividing line, and I would say it'd be in NC-24. Anything south of NC or east of NC-24 is sandier material. It's really good water down south of Clinton. Whenever our geologists found, we notified we wanted to install a couple of wells down there, they were excited because they knew that's where the really good water is, the aquifer was. And we, in this grant money, with this grant money, that instead of just adding lines, we want to add booster pumps and wells in the southern part of the county if that grant materializes, and maybe even a water tank.
I want to kind of go to break now, but when we come back, I want to expand that conversation because I know a lot of people that hears this will be excited in the southern part of the county that that's a possibility and something that may be happening. Ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned. We'll be back in a moment. We're talking about something that's vitally important to you, your drinking water. We'll be right back.
If you run a business, you need sales. To get sales, you need customers. To get customers, you need exposure. Let our team of experts craft and produce the perfect video ad to reach your intended audience while making the most of your advertising dollars. Call 1-800-706-6538 or visit starcom.net to contact our Star Communications production team and get your business moving to the next level.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We're talking about water today, clean water. We're talking to the man that's in charge of public works for Sampson County, Linwood Reynolds. Lynn, if one thing comes to my mind that when I do my priority list, if I think about it, and for most folks listening, may have one or at least more of these three, but one of them deals with electricity. If that goes out, we're in trouble. The other one, people will say, well, where's my cell phone? I got to have my cell phone. But water is probably the most vital part of that three-part list if you go down and think about it. If your water stops, whether it's county water or if your well stops, everything stops.
It stops.
You got to get that fixed. So when we left a while ago, you were talking about the potential of opening some wells down in the southern end of the county, which is it's a big, beautiful area, but there's not as many people there as you see in a lot of the population in the northern end. How do you balance where wells goes and what is the demand factor for putting county water in a certain area? Because as you pointed out, you're talking 50 million plus.
We, whenever you apply for a grant, our goal is to have 10 customers per mile. That is our goal.
Right.
But some of these grants have stipulations that are for a remote area like that.
Right.
And you get points for it being a remote area.
Underserved population.
And underutilized, underserved. And even though we probably won't get 10 per mile down there, if we have an opportunity for a grant, we're going to take it. We're going to go for it. And we went for the one at Ivanhoe, and we're preparing to apply for one in the Mintz area. And we're also going to apply for one in the northeastern part of the county near Hopton, Sutton Town Road.
Wow.
Those 3 areas were identified by the state as underutilized, underserved. And there's been an interest in those areas to have county water. We got an opportunity, and we are going to apply for grants.
Well, Lynn, all of the things you just mentioned and that we're literally talking about today with what you do relates directly to economic development.
There's 3 items for economic development that developers look for. One is land availability on the interstate. One is sanitary sewer, and one is water. We've got the interstate, we got the water. They do have a challenge with sanitary sewer in this county because it's so big of a county. That's something we're working on, and I don't know when we'll get to that. We're looking at different options right now on that because we've got several interchanges in the county that could be developed if we had sewer.
And it's interesting you mentioned that because I wanted to go to that a while ago, but since you mentioned it, we'll go there now. The sewer part of it, particularly as it relates to density of development, is a demand. It's almost a must. I mean, you can't put a couple of septic tanks in and you got just build a hotel with 30, 40, 50 rooms in it.
Right. It would have to be tied into a town sewer, and we're looking at some different options. There are some limitations in this county because we don't have access to a lot of running water in creeks that we could discharge to, and it takes quite a few acres to do a ground application. But we're looking at some different options. We're just looking at all options right now.
Is there and you mentioned, we talked just a while ago, you mentioned the underserved populations that you had looked at in the county. Is that going to be an ongoing fund resource that you feel like you could continue to apply for and receive grants? And is grants, when I hear the word grant, I'm hearing that's money you don't have to return. Does a grant mean you're going to have to pay it back, or is that money that you receive that's from the federal or state government?
It would have to be 100% grant, not paid back. We have specified in the grant writing that we would want to be considered only if it's 100% grant. And we couldn't match anything because we don't have the resources to do that. When you ask for a $10 million grant, if they want a 25% match, we don't have it. Mm-hmm. And so we specified in the grant that it would have to be 100% grant, and we hope we'll be successful. We take it quarter by quarter. Right now, we know there's some money available statewide, and it's very competitive. In September, the end of September, we've got 2 grants that we will apply for. We don't know after that. We think in December there may be some, but we just don't know.
Well, this big infrastructure bill that just got passed and signed off on by the president, is there money in that? Are you aware of pockets there that could support what you're doing here in this rural area?
I'm not familiar with it, so I assume that there would be some money available, but I don't know. There's a lot of different utilities it could cover. It could cover water, sewer. It could cover telephone, power line. It could cover a lot of different things.
Yeah, communications is a big part.
I don't know what that bill, how it's written.
What do you need from the general population, from folks that's listening to this show or watching this show? What can they do to help support what you're trying to accomplish, which is basically quality water to more households?
The first thing I would ask, if you've got a water line already installed in front of your house, please consider on paying a tap fee and buying water. That would benefit the system, where we could make more revenues, and we can expand the system later. If we do a marketing on your road, right now we've got 2 roads we're marketing, and in September we're going to market 5 more. Talk to your neighbors if you're on that road. We will do a door hanger. We'll put a door hanger on your road. We'll advertise online. Talk to your neighbors and sign up.
Let's talk about that, because I think this is a piece that I noted I wanted to kind of get into a bit, is that why do you think folks that have current existing shallow wells would hesitate to sign up for county water? Now, granted, there's a fee to sign up, but the other part of that is there's a monthly water bill you get, and you can have that drafted. But my point here is to try to get you to help us understand that person that says, well, you know, I've got a good well water here. I don't know why I want to sign up with the county. Help us understand why it would be not only potentially financially, but as far as quality of water and sustainability, that kind of thing.
We test our water. We do over 300 tests a month on this water to check for chlorine, and we got a bacteria test we do. We can assure the county that we provide good, clean drinking water. We just had a state inspector review our wells and our system in the last 3 weeks, and he had rave reviews about how efficient and clean it was, and on the mark. A shallow well, if you're on well water, it's fine, but you can benefit our water using our water. We have generators. If the power goes out during a storm, you'll have water unless we have a big water break. If your power goes out for a week, like it does during hurricane season, if we have a big hurricane and you have no water, you'd have to set up a generator and do and energize the wells. But it's just for an average of $43 a month. That's the average water bill. The whole system wide, for only $43 a month, you can have good, clean water.
That's tested frequently.
Yes.
So when I think about that, the selling point here is not so much the cost, because I would suggest, and I don't know whether any research has been done on it, but a private well itself is going to cost you a certain amount in just electricity to operate. I've been told a well running, a pump running can generate quite a bit of electricity or use quite a bit of electricity.
Yeah, I don't know what it would cost. I actually did not have water by my house. Mm-hmm. They didn't install it back then. I'm on a well, but I would assume electricity would be at least $10, $15 a month.
At the minimum,
I don't know. And then if you have a well to collapse, it could be anywhere from $1,200 to $10,000 to put a new one in. If you go with a deep well, it starts at $10,000, and but to tap on for $43 a month, that's even less than a cell phone bill.
Yeah, really is. Yeah. And I think the assurance, from what I hear you, the big assurance is the quality, the testing, the maintenance, the predictability of it, the sustainability of it's there. And that, in a way, is saying you're contributing back to making sure that the county's cost-benefit analysis is working so everybody can have water.
Yes, it would benefit the whole system and the county-wide, even the ones that do not have county water, because it could later on lead to more expansion.
We're going to take a break. We'll come back and we're going to dig a little bit deeper in this subject. Ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about something critically important to you. Depending on where you get your water, you might want to be thinking about it. Is it quality, clean water? If not, you need to listen to the rest of this show. Thank you very much.
At home or away, knowing who is at your door is priceless. Star Communications is here to help with its doorbell security camera by Skybell. Live viewing and two-way audio equips you with the ability to always see and greet anyone that shows up at your door. If this is the kind of confidence you are looking for, call Star Communications today at 1-800-706-6538 to learn more about this intelligent security that you can always depend on.
Welcome back. We Should Know is on the air. My name is JW Simmons. I'm your host, and we're talking about water. Some of the most important things that we have, Linwood Reynolds, is water and quality water. As Director of Public Works for Sampson County, you have seen that firsthand and understand the dynamic. We spent some time off air talking, almost as much as we have on air, but when you're talking about a critical part of our survival as water is, and as inexpensive as you have pointed out at approximately $40 a month, a person to sign up for that, it seems to make sense. The following question builds into that. Do you see, when you look in your crystal ball, if there is such a thing, water going up radically in the next 10, 15, 20 years?
I don't see it going up. We try to keep our costs down, and one item that has helped us keep our costs down is we do radio reads now. So we do not need as many people working. We can take the same amount of people and read more meters by a counter in a truck, and we're a lot more efficient. And the more people we have that tie on our water lines, the more revenues we have, and that's how we have basically supplemented the revenues, and we hadn't had to increase the water bill since 2008.
Wow. So when we're talking about that $43 water bill, how much water are we actually talking about for that water bill? Does that mean the average, and I use this loosely because I don't really, it's unscientific what I'm about to ask you, so I guess your answer can be unscientific, but does the average household, and I'm thinking 4 people, 5 at the most, how many gallons do they use, and how many gallons does this $43 a month pay for?
We use 5,000 gallons a month is the average. That's the average family of 4 or 5. Some use quite a bit more, some use the bare minimum, but we use 5,000, and the state uses that as well. Whenever they use, when we have to calculate how much water storage we need in the tanks, how big of tanks we need, they use 5,000 per customer. So that's a good round number.
When we're talking about 5,000, it sounds like a lot of water. Is that, do you think that, just from your personal experience, is a good number, or is it too low or too high? And if you use over 5,000 gallons, how much does it go up? Does it go up so much every gallon or every 500 gallons or what?
We got a flat rate of $19.40 administrative charge, and then $4.85 per 1,000 after that. So if they use 6,000, it'd be $4.85 more. And so you can get 1,000 gallons of water for $4.85.
That sounds like a lot of water.
That's a lot of water. But if you've got a leak in your house, it don't take long to use up 1,000 gallons. So if your water bill is high, call us, because there's a problem. We can check it out. We can't go in your house and inspect the house, but
that's what plumbers do.
That's what plumbers do, but we can check to see if it's a meter problem. Most of the time, it's a leaking toilet.
Yeah.
And that little $4 flap in there may be leaking a little bit, and it's very easy fix.
And that's a lot of gallons if you leave it, especially overnight.
If it's leaking, you can easily use up 1,000 gallons, and your septic tank will fill up, and then you've got another problem. So it kind of like a snowball. If you got a leak, you need to make sure you get it addressed.
The question is also often asked, is there a way or is this something you've thought about helping with, a way that folks can see, say, every 24 hours? I mean, you can do it with your light bill. I know you can go online and see if you got a peak, if it's going up and all that kind of thing. Is there a way you could do water the same way?
We don't have any way to do that right now. If you've got a leak under the house, you probably won't be able to hear it. But if usually it's toilet. If the toilet's leaking, you should be able to hear that.
And a lot of older homes that we're talking about, probably that could switch to county water, that may be one of their drawbacks. They're thinking, well, you know, my water system was installed 40, 50 years ago, and occasionally, you know, a pipe will break, and if it breaks, I might end up paying $400 or $500 water bill, and I got to pay $300 or $400 to get it fixed.
Well, there's once a year, we got a policy on a leak adjustment. That if you've got a major water bill and it's a leak, and you provide evidence that you had a leak, we can adjust the water bill. There's a limit on how many times we can do it. As long as you provide documentation you have repaired a leak, we'll work with the person on it. And we can, if it's a really big bill, we can do some type of payment plan. Mm-hmm. We have done that sometimes in the past. If you're concerned you may have a leak, if you turn all your faucets off and go out and look at the meter, and if it's still moving, that's an indication. But that's the only way I know right now that you could identify a leak.
And the water's going somewhere if that needle is moving even the slightest.
If it's going through that meter, it will be moving. And it may be in the line under the ground, it may be under the house, or it could be at a faucet or shower or the toilet. Something's leaking somewhere.
Some of the questions I got now, I want to try to get in because we're in our third segment and we've got a last segment coming up. But in this segment, I wanted to kind of talk a bit about some of the questions that you get a lot apparently. And you get questions about odor in the water. What's going on with that? If somebody says, well, you know, and I'm talking about folks that's on county water, I've got this unusual smell. What's happening? What is that?
Usually, it is sedimentation out of the hot water heater. Usually.
It has nothing to do with the county system, maybe.
No, the water in the county system. Sometimes we get what we call dirty water. It's got it'll be cloudy, there's different things that can happen in that that could cause that. But the odor almost always is generated from a hot water heater. If you've got a device like if you use a lot of hot water at one time and you get that smell, or you get the water changes colors, you probably need to call a plumber or somebody to check the hot water heater.
Because it's probably coming from that hot side of that faucet, and if it is hot water, you change that out, that should clear up the problem?
Yes, it should clear it up. Now we will go out and flush the lines to the meter box to verify our water we're providing is good and clear water. And but usually it's an internal problem at the home.
The other question that comes up quite often is the question about folks will say, all of a sudden, I either flushed a commode or I had washing clothes, and this big chunk of what looks like rusty water come out. So explain that to us and what's going on.
When we treat our water, there is some sedimentation in the bottom of our pipes. When there's a large amount of water that's used, if we have a water line break, or it's just an unusual, water does not like to be bothered. If it flows at 300 gallons a minute, it don't like to be changed to 400 gallons. It don't like to be changed. And when you change the speed of it and the volume, it will basically flush the sedimentation in the bottom of the pipes. And many times it will end up at your home until and then you call us, we'll go flush lines until we get it clean. And then sometimes it's a water line break, sometimes it's a fire department has used our water and they use a lot. It just changes the volume and the speed of it, and it's going to flush the line.
And there's so much of it is just, as you pointed out, just the natural way water works. And it could be the same thing is going to happen if you're in Raleigh or anywhere else. There's not a way to say you're going to get crystal clear, perfect water, even probably from your well, but much less from county water.
That's correct. If it's not changed, if the volume doesn't change, it will be very consistent. If we have a contractor that drives in and they fill their tanks up at a fire hydrant, sometimes they're not supposed to, but sometimes they do it, that will affect it. But there's a lot of variables. We want to be we want to help the fire departments and other agencies as we can, but sometimes that's the side effect.
And that's kind of one of those things too, in a disaster situation or a house fire situation, they got to kind of take priority.
They do, and we are required to keep the water pressure at a certain amount, 30 pounds per pressure. That's a state regulation. If we cannot maintain 30 PSI, we've identified that by painting the fire hydrant black, and we've asked the fire departments not to use those, because if they use it, the pressure goes down below 30, and it's hard on fire departments. It's difficult to drive by a hydrant and not be able to use it.
Absolutely.
But to keep the water safe, for the drinking water safe, that's what we have to do.
We're going to take another break and we'll be back. Ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned. We're talking about your drinking water, quality of life right here in Sampson County. We're talking with Linwood Reynolds, Director of Public Works. We'll be back in one moment.
To get the most out of your electronic devices, you need a strong internet connection and a protected home Wi-Fi network. You need high-speed internet from Star. Star has the fastest, most affordable high-speed internet service available for all your devices. We have no long-term contracts or high-pressure sales. Our service speaks for itself, and switching is hassle-free. We take care of everything with free installation from a local company. High-speed internet from Star. Internet at the speed of life.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We're coming up on our last segment on a show called We Should Know. Each and every week, we come to you at 2:30 on Tuesdays. At 2:30, the show is simulcast on Star Communications Channel 16, WCLN Radio. And on Tuesday, Thursday at 7 p.m., you'll see the show on Star Communications Channel 16. It's also uploaded to Facebook, YouTube, and social media platforms after the show airs. We want to thank you for being there each and every week. We hope the information we're bringing you and the people we're talking to that has the expertise in the subject and telling you exactly what you need to know is what's being important to you. So as we move forward with that, we want to thank everybody that's been part of this show. The big announcement for this month is our 12th year on the air with We Should Know. And it seems to be phenomenally fast, but we've been out here 12 years bringing you conversation with people in positions and places and doing things that's impacting your life. We'd like to continue to hear from you at weshouldknow.edu@gmail.com, weshouldknow.edu@gmail.com, or you can drop us a note or a card to We Should Know, or just send it to WSK, Post Office Box 1482, Clinton, North Carolina. We like to get those notes, comments from you. Also enjoy seeing a lot of you in the community here and there, and you comment on people like Linwood Reynolds that we're talking to today. So we look forward to that conversation. And as we come up here on the last segment of this show, I've got a lot of things we need to talk to Lynn about as it relates to water here in the county. So stay tuned And now we're back to water. Lynn Reynolds, thank you for being with us. I got through with that little announcement. I want to get back to water. And there's so many things that seems that people have questions about, and a lot of them have to do with everything from the discoloration of water, of which you address, to what should I do, how should I do certain things. But the reality is it boils down to things that folks maybe have read or heard that are not true that we need to clarify. For example, if I've got county water, do I have to drive to Clinton and pay my bill at that office in Clinton out there on Southeast Boulevard every week or every month? Or how does that work? Is there an easy way to pay my water bill? I'm going to let you tell us how that can be done.
We've got numerous ways to pay the water bill. You can pay it online with a credit card. There is a small service fee for that, and it is the fee they charge us. I think it's $2.95 or $3.95. You can stop by the office and pay with a credit card with no fee. Mm-hmm. Or, of course, you can pay cash or check. You can mail it in. We got a drop box. You can stop anytime and put it in and place it in a drop box. But there's numerous ways to pay for it. But the most efficient is to place it on draft. And it's very secure. We've never had a problem with it. We've got one person that handles the draft payments, so we've got that security in place. We would highly recommend to do a draft. If, for instance, this past Monday was a water cutoff day, if we have to cut somebody's water off, and we do not like to do that, it's $50 to reactivate that, to reconnect the line.
Which is more than the average bill.
It's more than the average bill. And I can look back in the history of it, and it's basically the same customers every 3 months that missed a bill. And I would highly recommend doing a draft.
You know, when we look at water bills, what I call vital utility bills, water bills, electric bills, cell phone bills, when people start letting those drop, it seems to be a major economic problem in whatever area. During COVID, during the time people were out of work, did you see a lot of water bills dropping off, or what happened with you?
We didn't see a drop off. We had a few people that under the governor wouldn't let us. He had a law he created, administrative law, where we couldn't turn somebody's water off for several months. At the end of the day, they had to pay the bill, but we had to place them on a payment plan. And I think we had like 90 people on a payment plan out of 6,300. So there wasn't that many that didn't pay their water bill during that time frame, and it worked out fine. I mean, we gave them plenty of time to pay their bill, and we just tacked it on to the existing bill. And it was unclear when the governor created that program whether they had to pay to catch the bills up, but they did at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So if I'm a person listening to this show, and I'm hearing the Director of Public Works talk about water, and I'm thinking, well, you know, I've lived on this road here, and I've got a lot of neighbors, and they've all had problems with their wells, and I'd love to get on county water. What do you say to people, or do you have people that call you? If they don't, what would you tell them to do if they want to try to get water to their house?
If they call us and express an interest, we will send them a petition, and we ask that person that calls to be the spearhead it, because that person can get their neighbors to sign better than we can, and we're more successful. We've proven that already. We'll send a petition out. When they send it back in, I will investigate and score the road to see if it has 10 per mile. And it's just simple math, basically. And that's step one. Step two is, if it qualifies, if we have a funding source and the board approves it, we'll proceed on proceed on with it. If there's not a funding source, then we try to find one, and usually in a grant, and that's kind of where we're at now.
When I want to circle back to something you said earlier about potentially a new well down in the Ivanhoe area and 2 or 3 other places around the county. What does that mean in the sense of adding lines? I mean, you can put the well there. Does that mean if you put the well there that some of that funds that you're receiving to do that will allow you to lay existing lines from that well to residences?
Yeah, the grant that we are hoping to get for Ivanhoe would allow for up to 25 miles of water lines and a new well or 2 new wells. And if we can install new wells with the grant money, that would eliminate us from having to buy from other entities. This past year, we bought $480,000 worth of water from the city of Clinton and Dunn, and that's combined. And the more wells we have, the more revenue we can keep in-house and expand our own system.
The other thing that struck me in our conversation, and sometimes I'm reflecting back and put a little check here, but when you talk about water from Dunn or from Clinton, and you mentioned a while ago that when we're talking water in this area, it is wells in the ground. It's probably what, 200 to 300 plus feet.
Most of ours are about 250 to 285.
So we've got wells in the ground. Is that actually better as far as quality of water than the places that exist in North Carolina that pumps it out of the river or out of a pond somewhere or a lake?
I can't speak for the counties that use what we call surface water.
Yeah.
But one county that buys surface water wants to buy and is buying our groundwater, and they want it. So it's other than natural elements in the ground, the well water is not exposed to what could be dumped from a river or from a factory. Mm-hmm. I guess it could seep into the aquifer, but we test it, and it's just got a natural filter system that, in my mind, it makes sense that it may be cleaner.
Yeah, a bit more quality simply because of that filter system.
But now they do treat the surface water through filtering systems and chemicals and all that, and it is clean whenever they provide it. But they have to treat theirs quite a bit more than we do.
And that's actually a savings to us.
Yes.
So we're coming up on closure here. I want to give you a minute, anything that we've missed that you wanted to touch on.
I just would like to thank the county residents for being patient with us. Installing water lines are very expensive. It's up to almost $300,000 a mile now. And we want to provide water to all the residents in the county eventually as we can afford it. It is a slow process, but that's our goal.
Well, I'm gonna give out this number, and we'll try to put it at the bottom of the screen, but the number to your office is 910-592-0188.
Yes.
Now, there's also an after-hours number that is for emergencies, 910-385-9040, and that's published. That's on the website. Those 2 numbers are critically important. If folks have questions that we didn't touch on, or maybe we didn't clarify enough, if they call your office, they can either get you or one of your technical folks, and they can explain it in detail, correct?
That's correct. If you can call to 592-0188 for non-emergencies during the day, that's better. The other phone number goes to the 911 center, and that's for emergencies only. And we don't want to tie up the 911 people.
That's right. But that's for an outage or something if there's no water in the area.
That's right.
Because you need to know that in case you got a line situation.
Right.
I want to thank you for being with us again. And ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for being with us as we go to closure here today. We're again asking you to stay in touch with us. So let us know what you're thinking and what your thoughts are on the shows we've had, shows we need to do for you to better help folks understand what's going on. We're more than happy to ask folks to come talk to us. Look forward to seeing you again next week, and may God bless.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of We Should Know with host JW Simmons. If you have a question, comment, or suggestion regarding this or any episode, please send your emails to weshouldknowedu@gmail.com. And remember to tune in every Tuesday at 2:30 for another informative episode of We Should Know.